Retiring is one thing. Being happy in retirement is altogether something else. And my wish for you is that you certainly, when you do retire, you will have a happy and fulfilled retirement, but not everybody does. And in this video, I want to share with you a couple of studies that chronicled what a numbers of people thought made them happy as they are now in retirement. But before we get there, hit the subscribe button. I've got over 30 years of experience in this business, talking with many, many people. And I want to share that experience with you when it comes to Social Security, retirement, being happy in retirement, all of it. And hit the notifications bell below so you can be alerted to when we post new videos. Now, I've said it over and over again, I think our industry has done a lousy job of getting you prepared for all that is retirement, for all that is in this next chapter of life. And in a recent video we did, The Difference Between Rich and Poor, I talked about this in depth. I believe our industry defines wealth as just how much money you've accumulated and whether or not you have enough to buy all the toys that you desire. But in the video, I talk about the difference between wealth financially and wealth from a soul perspective, as a human being, whether we're truly fulfilled and being rewarded and impacting others. That is also a part of being wealthy and oftentimes can equate to happiness in retirement. And I want to focus on that, both of them, because you need both. You need some sort of finances to get through the day-to-day, right? But there also needs to be a sense of, from our soul, how are we doing? Are we doing the things we need to? Are we getting fulfilled? Are we really, truly happy? And these two studies will provide a little bit more perspective for you on this topic. So Mark Hurlbert wrote in an article about an Employee Benefits Research Institute, the EBRI, a study that they conducted back in September of 2020 of approximately 2,000 people between the ages of 62 and 75 with less than $1 million in total assets. And one of the areas of the study was to have these people answer the question whether or not they were finding satisfaction in retirement. So the study broke down into 5 different categories. As you can see, they broke them out into affluent, comfortable, average, just getting by, and struggling. And the interesting part about this was that outside of the struggling, that the other 4 categories were all fairly close with regards to satisfaction, with either just over or just a little bit under 8 out of 10 people saying that they were satisfied with their retirement. So the interesting thing about the categorization, if you will, is that the affluent in this study had approximately $320,000 of assets and about $100,000 of income. And the struggling category on the other side had less than $100,000 of assets and somewhere in the vicinity of $40,000 or less in total income. The big difference between the two was not necessarily the total assets, but the whole issue of being overwhelmed by debt. Those who put themselves in the category, or the EBRI Institute put them in the category of affluent or comfortable, they were pretty much debt-free, and they didn't have to deal with the mortgage, etc. And I'm not suggesting to you that it is or is not a good way to go to have a mortgage-free life or not. We have that question with our clients all the time. And to be honest with you, the answer is, it all depends. What your situation is, what your circumstances are, what your goals are. So there's no one right answer as to whether or not you should be mortgage-free. But we have conversations about debt and what is good debt and what is bad debt. And we make sure that we understand that and deal with it. But those who are struggling are having the issue with debt. So one of the answers to how do I find happiness in retirement is really to address the issue of debt, understand good debt versus bad debt, and then how to manage it. The big conclusion from Mr. Hurlburt was, as he posted in his article, is that once you got past that initial financial hurdle of overcoming the debt and not being in the struggling category, that it didn't really matter. There wasn't much of a difference between wealth and happiness. Just because somebody had more money did not mean, per this study, that they were more or less happy. Because as you saw in the first three categories, there really was no difference. It was basically 8 out of 10 felt that they were satisfied or happy with their life in retirement. So again, going back to our industry, it's not all about the money. Just because you have more money than somebody else does not necessarily mean that you are in pursuit of happiness. And before I get into the other study, speaking of pursuit of your retirement, in my recent book, Don't Outlive Your Money in Retirement, what I did was I developed a quiz. You can find it in our banner. Just invest 2 minutes of your time. Quick quiz. I'll score for you immediately which of the 3 retirement preparedness stages you are in. I'll get you a free chapter of the book and a couple of worksheets so that you have more clarity as to whether or not you are on track for the next chapter. So from this same study, it was a massive study, lots of information and stuff in there, but there were certain areas that I highlighted that I thought were very important for you to understand how others who have maybe retired before you have fed back through this study what they thought they did well, what they thought they did poorly, and how it equated to their own happiness. So let's go through it. The first item that was interesting was that people said that they wished they had saved more. Now, I talk about this all the time in many of my trainings on my financial literacy side, where I speak about financial wellness and literacy to corporations and having all ages do a better job of saving and saving early, because the earlier you can save, the more it can compound, and you have the potential of having more money at retirement. And almost half of the people in this study, 46%, said they wished that they had saved more and saved earlier. And that also relates to an AARP study that was done a couple of years ago that indicated that a majority of people who were facing the normal retirement age, call it 66 or 67, were deferring their retirement. And the number one reason was because they didn't have enough money. So let's learn that lesson here and save as early as we can, or make sure we tell our kids and grandkids to get on the train here and start being disciplined enough. It's not about saving lots of money. It's about being disciplined to save some money on the same frequency over and over and over again as early as possible. The next item is most people believed that they were doing well in retirement. And the way that that was defined was approximately 7 out of 10 people said that they were living at about the same means in retirement that they were when they were working. And they were very happy with that. And that's what they had really planned for. When they went into retirement, they weren't going to have, big bucket lists or do lots of things. They were very comfortable continuing to do what they were doing while they were working. So that is one true component of happiness, that you're not living beyond your means. Again, our industry has talked about, you have to have lots of monies and lots of Benjamins, if you will, in order to retire comfortably and be happy. It's not necessarily the case. It all depends how you wish to lead your life. You don't need lots and lots of money. You just need to be able to pursue whatever your personal goals are. The next item is most don't want to spend down their assets. Approximately 40%-ish said that they would probably be spending down their assets, which left about 58 to 60% of the folks who said They weren't interested in that. They wanted either to preserve it or actually grow it a little bit. So again, it's all a mindset of what you want. And for many of the people I talk to, the more they have in the emergency reserves or cash or savings or their checking account, the more comfortable or happy or confident that they feel about pursuing their lives. This next one is interesting because the industry puts out there that, outliving your money is the number one fear. And for many it is, but there are other fears as great as, if not more than. This particular study talked about a couple of these items. One was not so much the fear of outliving your money, but not having enough money when there's a big event that they have to cover, like a financial thing that isn't covered. Whether there's some big tragedy that they have to deal with, or whether something in the family where they have to contribute to other parts of the family in order to make them whole again. That's a big fear. Another fear is that they don't have enough money to provide for legacy planning, to provide for the kids and the grandkids and the education. So it's important to understand from a planning perspective what does keep you up at night, and to really address it, address the numbers, and address how you wish to lead your life so you can pursue whatever is important to you and help to overcome those fears. The next one's very similar to what I've just talked about in terms of having a big emergency reserve or savings or checking accounts. It's having the big retirement nest egg, and that's what the industry talks about, right? And when you have that bigger nest egg, define it however you like. Whatever that number is that makes you comfortable, it will provide you with some sense of confidence and happiness. Also, it's interesting right now, we've got a housing market where many of us are experiencing higher values in the equity value of our homes. That also makes us happier. So there are certain intangibles that are important that do relate to finances, but they relate more to the psychology of understanding the impact of those numbers and how we go about pursuing our retirement. The next one is interesting, and it has to deal with the difference between reality and expectations. The study indicated that about 1/4 of the folks found that the reality of their retirement was much different than what they expected. And that's where planning comes into play. That's where you don't start thinking about retirement on Thursday when your retirement date is Friday, okay? The retirement red zone, according to our industry, is, like 3 to 5 years before retirement. Really sit down, with somebody experienced, a professional, somebody who lives in the retirement planning space like ourselves, okay? And to talk about, again, not just the numbers, but how you wish to lead your life this way and how to find that proper balance. Planning is the real key to trying to make sure that the reality of what you're looking for is in alignment with what your expectations were going to be. And if you're really concerned about making sure you're on track, then make sure that you check out our playlist, Don't Outlive Your Money in Retirement. Thank you.